So welcome to all those tuning in on the live stream on LinkedIn. Also for those tuning in on YouTube. This goes out to YouTube as well. So thank you. Last week was week 4. Last week was week 3. Today we're moving on to week 4 of the masterclass. So if you've been on this journey for the last 3 weeks, well done to you. It's great see some of those customer avatars come together. And also in the comments from last week, it's great to see that interaction as well. If you're not already part of the school community, we're trying to kind of build that up again. So do head over to leadith.io/school, where you can be a part of this and catch up on the previous weeks. Right, let me ask you something. So feel free to drop a comment in the chat if you're watching this live on LinkedIn. We're talking about automation today. So I'd love to know how many of you are using automation. Also, those of you in the live room, feel free to drop a comment, have a look for it. It's a little speech bubble symbol in the corner. It'd be good to know who's using automation on LinkedIn especially. And there's no judgment here whatsoever. Just it'd be good to see where we're starting from. So Sasha, feel free to look for those comments in the live room. Elaine, I already know you're using automation. So today's topic is going to be one that's going to tends to stir up a lot of opinions. Automation. Some people swear by it. Some people think it's the devil. And the truth, as usually is the case, it still sits somewhere in the middle, in my opinion. We've got some core learning objectives today. Let me just share the screen on the live stream so you can follow through with the presentation as well. Got one more guest coming into the room as well. Apologies here. Just bear with us. Welcome, Jason, as well. So just super quickly, some of the thank you, Sasha. This will be great for you then if you're not using automation. So by the end of this session, you're going to understand how to use automation intelligently to really scale your LinkedIn outreach effort while maintaining that authenticity, bringing a genuine relationship and staying compliant with LinkedIn's terms. So some of the key outcomes, we're going to look at understanding what LinkedIn's algorithm detects, what triggers these flags, know exactly which parts of outreach to automate and which to keep manual. We're also going to tap into how to build intelligent automation sequences that adapt to the prospect's behavior, and how to implement safety protocols to protect your LinkedIn account. And then finally, we're going to tap into how to scale that outreach sustainably without sacrificing quality or authenticity. So here's the big elephant in the room. We've got to talk about it because there's a lot of confusion and, quite frankly, quite a lot of bad advice floating around as well. LinkedIn automation can be brilliant. It can also be quite disastrous. And the difference is not the technology itself, but the difference is how you use it. And that's what we're unpacking today, how to use automation intelligently, ethically, and effectively, and how to scale your outreach without sounding like a robot, how to be efficient without being spammy, how to protect your account whilst growing that pipeline. So by the end of the session, you're going to have this clear framework for what to automate, what to keep manual, how to build systems that feel genuinely human, even when they are technologically assisted. So let me begin, be absolutely clear where I stand about this. I run Leadith. Leadith is a kind of LinkedIn automation tool. So I'm obviously not anti-automation, but I'm not fiercely pro-authenticity as well. So I love, people coming up, representing themselves in a very genuine way. And I believe that's those two things can coexist. In fact, they have to coexist if you want a sustainable and long-term success on the LinkedIn platform. So before we talk about what you should do, let's understand a little bit about what LinkedIn's looking for. As you know, it runs, like all social media platforms, it runs on an algorithm. So if you're operating by what you were doing back in 2023, you're going to be at risk. LinkedIn's moved on, and now it really doesn't care if you use automation. To be fair, a heck of a lot of LinkedIn is all about automation. They've got a lot of AI in the platform. And I believe that LinkedIn really doesn't care if you use automation. And I know that because I've been using automation tools for, well over 6, 7, 8 years now on the platform. So it's not about automation. It's kind of more about seeing it as a manual task, and you're just kind of automating those manual, laborious tasks that you would be doing. We're not just saying goodbye to every involvement of the process. We're very much in control of it. And that's the key difference. What LinkedIn care about ultimately is user experience. And they care about keeping the platform feeling human, feeling genuine, and feeling valuable. If you rock up and it's all spammy and it's all automated, then that is going to cause flags. We talked about this back in week 1, but it's worth just revisiting it again because it's absolutely central to everything that we do today. LinkedIn now assigns every account with an invisible authenticity score. And that score goes up when you behave like a genuine human. Varied activity, timely responses, engagement with content, personalized messages, accepted connection requests, positive reply rates. These are all things that are going to contribute to this score. And it goes down if you behave like a spam bot, ignoring messages, sending identical messages out to hundreds of people, or copy and paste. Very risky. No variation in your timing. So if it's very robotic and you're just pumping out at set times. Zero engagement with the platform outside of those connection requests. And obviously, ignoring messages and things like that are going to affect your performance on LinkedIn. Poor acceptance rates is what you're going to see. So here's what specifically triggers the LinkedIn spam detection in 2026. Sending the exact same message to more than 20 people without any variation is what they're going to pick up on. So they can detect copy and paste patterns now, and it's much more sophisticated than it was a couple of years ago. So if you're connecting with 100 plus maybe people on a weekly basis, and then you've actually got zero profile activity, and your only action on LinkedIn is sending connection requests, then that is going to be a bit suspicious to LinkedIn. They're going to suggest that might be a bot account or a made up account even. Maybe you're not responding to messages as you receive them. And if people kind of reply to you and you're just ignoring them, LinkedIn is going to notice that. That's not how real humans behave. And using third-party tools, that are going to really violate LinkedIn's terms of service. And let's be very clear, a lot of the kind of browser-based tools are fine, but there's some nasty ones out there that are just pulling lots of data. So you've got to be careful of those. LinkedIn's API is being bypassed, and that can cause problems. So what are the actual safe limits in 2026? So this is based on our systems. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of accounts using this platform, and connection requests, ideally around about 80 to 100 per week. Years ago, we used to drive this much harder. I remember looking back at the stats. I've logged all my stats every single month for the last 5-6 years. I think it peaked in 2022, 23, and we were pushing out around about 900 connection requests in a month, which is serious volumes back then. These days, I don't think you can get away with that. So we're looking at around about 80 to 100 connection requests per week maximum. And that's about 15 to 20 a day if you're pushing them out. When you start to go beyond that, then you do risk hitting a limit. The messages to your existing connections. Now, this is the beautiful one. There's no actual hard limit, but we need to keep it reasonable. So I always say if you're pushing out maybe 100 connection requests per week, a top goal is double that. So 200 follow-up messages a day. 200 follow-up messages a week if you're putting out the 100. So if you're doing 15 to 20 connection requests per day, the rule of thumb, as I call it, is about 30 to 40 follow-ups as well. So that's to first degree connections. Profile views, you can quite comfortably get away with a lot. It's not a thing that will affect the algorithm too much, but 200 to 300 per week is a nice comfortable limit. If you can do that, I mean, we're seeing just over 1,000 a month in terms of profile views, and yeah, we've had accounts that have been fine, never had any flags or anything like that at those sorts of levels. In-mails is a funny one. So obviously, if you've got Sales Navigator, you can send an in-mail, which is a bit like an email through LinkedIn. You can push out 50 of those per month, or even it tops out 100 depending on your subscription level. Those are kind of not arbitrary numbers. They're just kind of patterns that LinkedIn sees from genuine active users. So stay within these parameters, and then you're going to be operating in a very safe way. So if you do get flagged, this is what happens. LinkedIn has a kind of 3-tier restriction system. The first offense, you'll get a temporary restriction. It's also sometimes called a fuse limit. And they might restrict how many connection requests you can send out for the next 24 to 48 hours. And it's quite obvious. A warning is displayed when you log into LinkedIn. We used to see them quite regularly. These days, I haven't seen them as much. I've received a couple over the years myself, but that's just a first kind of slap on the wrist. You normally get then a second offence, which is obviously if you're abusing that and you're carrying on, and they've warned you, then you'll get what are called weekly limits applied. And these are limits. So LinkedIn's capping how many actions that you can take per week until you demonstrate better behavior, until you abide by their rules and what they're saying. And then you have that third offense, which is the nastiest. I've never even experienced this. None of my clients have experienced it, but this is the permanent account restriction or ban. They'll basically remove your profile and it's like goodbye. There's no chance of getting it back. You can whinge. I've read some horror stories about these, but you've really got to do something pretty bad to get that permanent account restriction. They rarely jump you straight to that. But if you ignore those first 2 warnings, then potentially they'll take you straight to that third offense. So the good news is that restrictions often can be lifted if you change your behavior. And LinkedIn's looking for correction, not permanently trying to punish you. So if you've got, you've got to take those warnings seriously, and you should be fine. So don't get worried about them. It's all about volumes and levels, and if you can control that, then it's a safer place to be. So we've created this kind of automation traffic like system, and this is where it gets tactical. This is the framework that we teach to our clients, and it's a very simple framework, and it keeps you safe while scaling effectively. So the green zone, these are the tasks that are perfectly safe to automate, and where automation actually improves your results. Thank you, Jason. Now I noticed your comment about knowing people that got banned. Let's just go tap into that quickly now. 2 people who got banned for creating 2 or 3. Yeah, multiple accounts is a big no. Yeah, I'm not surprised. You can actually buy fake LinkedIn accounts that are supposedly ID verified. But yeah, that's very unethical. I wouldn't be comfortable, buying a pre-warmed up LinkedIn account which is verified to someone else's ID. But you got to, look out for these scams where people are selling bigger users and things. So going back to the green zone automation things that we can do. Profile visits are great. It's a very time consuming and repetitive task for you to be doing manually. So we need to automate it. And tools can automate that process for you. And that's visiting those 50 to 100 profiles every day on your behalf. And some of those people will visit you back. So it's great free visibility. It really is. Then you've got connection request sending. As long as your messages are personalized and varied, then automating the actual sending of those messages is fine. So you can write them manually. You just use a tool that handles the clicking. And that's what automation is doing. It's just freeing you up time to automate those tasks. The follow-up sequences, if someone accepts your connection request, but maybe they don't reply to that first message, then an automated follow-up message after maybe 3 to 5 days is perfectly reasonable. So just make sure that follow-up adds value. And a couple of weeks ago, we looked at a whole connection request, that magic 7 seconds that it takes for people to think, should I accept this connection request or not? So those are quite exciting. Just going to let a couple more guests into the room as well. Okay, and another thing that you might think about in the green zone is obviously list building. You can actually automate your search and export the prospects, and that saves you a lot of hours. And that's pure efficiency with no downside. LinkedIn won't get funny with you doing that. So building those lists, scraping the people from a list, and doing that automatically is going to be a really safe task to be doing. We then have the amber zone. So the amber zone is things that you can automate, but you just got to be a bit careful about how you do it. And first messages after that connection acceptance, you can automate these, but they've got to be really genuinely personalized, not hi, first name, thanks for connecting, because that's just really lazy. So something that references why you connected in the first place is going to be really, really helpful there. If you're running in-mail campaigns, automation is fine there, but in-mails are much more formal. They're expensive because you're limited to the 50 if you're paying for them. But the bar is much higher, set higher for quality in terms of LinkedIn and detecting that as a spam email potentially. There's the addition of a subject line and different things like that. So there's a lot more goes on with the in-mail side than a straightforward DM. Engagements and recommendations, not something that I ever endorse. Obviously, you're connecting often with second degree people that you've not really got a true authentic connection with. So if you're endorsing for skills and recommending, doing that on automation is probably, I kind of draw the line there, and I'd stick to doing those manually for the people that you know and trust. So a lot of tools can offer different ways of automating those different processes within the Lead platform. We can do profile views. We can also do post likes and comments as well, just to build up that that automation piece. If you're doing that anyway, it's great to automate that piece as well. So it's obviously, those are the amber ones. So just be careful when you're automating those ones. And then we have the red zone. So these are things that you should never really automate. Requests to genuine questions or conversations. So if somebody's taken the time to write a thoughtful message to you, then they deserve a thoughtful reply. Not a template, not an automated response, just like a real human to human answer. And keep it human, keep it real for those. If anything that requires any specific judgment or nuance, maybe sales calls, objection handling, pricing discussions, a lot of those kind of intricate things just require human intelligence. No matter how much you can train a bot and make it sound like you, try to be as human and step into that conversation as early as possible. If you've got a campaign where you're just purely driving people to a lead magnet or an asset, where you want to share a link, or even if it's just to engage with them to maybe book a call, that's kind of where we take it with automation. Once that call is booked, then we make sure we turn bots off, because we need a one-to-one interaction with people post-booking, and we need to catch up with what's been going on. So I would always say, once that conversation gets to a certain place, you've got to get in and take over the conversation. Think about content posting. It's great to schedule posts, but make sure they're written by you. So much automated content out there, and it's just dilutes the platform heavily. It's just becomes a bit of a place where people don't want to be anymore if the content is just so automated and boring. So keep it real, keep it human, add you into it. By all means, you can use content schedulers to kind of help you create content ideas. That's really helpful. But always make sure you go in and edit that content, put your spin on it, is what I would say there. So this is where automation genuinely gets clever. You can actually build automation sequences that are based on prospect behavior now. And this is not spray and pray, but this is responsive, intelligent automation. So one example of this is you can send a connection request with a very personalized message. So in the Leadeth tool, we have this component here, which is the, let's just make it a little bit bigger on my screen so I can zoom in. So over here, we have this thing called the AI hook helper. And what this AI hook helper does is we first got an engagement step, and that engagement step is scraping the user's prospects data from LinkedIn. So they're all their data, the lead's name, their bio, their role, the company, where they're based, the industry they're in. And then this feeds down into the AI helper. And the AI helper is quite simply a prompt that goes out to Anthropic's Claude, is the particular AI model that we use. And we're basically saying to AI, this is the prospect that we're currently looking at. Can you do a bit more research for us? Can you write an icebreaker? In terms of character count, we tend to just go for the 175 characters on the prompt and generate an output message on the back of that. And what we get is a result often that will look very similar to this sort of message pops up. This is just an example. Impressed with how you've scaled boutique PR into a big impact. Your integrated approach stands out in Gloucestershire's comms landscape. So it's kind of a big me up message that you could put out. But every single message that we're sending is very unique. It's very bespoke, and it follows the 4-step framework from week 2, which we talked about how to connect with people, the hook, the bridge, and the soft close as well, in terms of why we want to connect with people. So yeah, just a bit of an example there. So these sequences adapt, and they adapt. They're not just blasting the same 5 messages at everyone, regardless how they respond. It's being very intelligent about it and actually doing the research and then sending very bespoke messages to individuals. Here's the real thing about personalization. See, not all of variables are created equal. You've got weak variables, and then you've got much stronger ones that you can use. And things like first name, company name, everybody uses them. They're better than not having any personalization. But it's important, if you want to demonstrate that you've done some real research on the prospect and you want to build that relationship, then you've got to use stronger variables. So things like a recent post topic or recent company news. It could be mutual connections you've got in common, specific challenges in their industry. These sorts of signals are going to be much stronger. And what we sealed is a much higher acceptance connection acceptance rate when you start to yield those kind of better variables. So the difference is night and day. Those weak ones just say, I used a template. When someone approaches you with a strong variable that says, I actually looked at your profile and thought about you specifically because of this reason, it's just a way better way of doing it. So a lot of automation tools these days can start to pull in basic variables. There's things that like Clay out there. They're quite expensive if you actually go in with all-in plans and you want to be doing it at scale. But our tool at Leadeth, we actually do this using that AI hook helper, and that's kind of doing it on demand. It's a kind of, we pay for the data usage and credits, so you can send as many as you like and utilize as many prompts as you like as part of the plan. But the idea is, you cannot send 500 connection requests a week. But what you're actually doing now is sending a kind of almost like a smaller amount, but a much more laser targeted amount. And that's where we're seeing a difference. Let me show you the data. So this is from analyzing quite a few campaigns. Generic automation, so that if you're sending the same message out, you get a 3 or 8% response rate. With basic personalization, so if just name and maybe a company, that goes up to maybe 12 to 18% acceptance rate. And if you're actually on LinkedIn and you're looking at the people that are wanting to connect with you, that helps you to just kind of prove this and prove these rates. Because how many do you click on if there's no message whatsoever? They don't even mention your name and they just want to connect with you. I mean, I just ignore them. I choose I did not know this person, click that one straight away. Whereas if you've got a real personalized opener, it's calling them out by name and it's going into like, notice your background in XYZ industry and your specific recent post or something like that. then you get a much higher acceptance rate. So yeah, that difference is staggering. That 35 to 50% is where you want to get the acceptance rate, because then your outreach is, your response rate on the back of the new acceptance is going to be way higher as well, and it all compounds. So yeah, and that's not because of automation, that's just of how you use it. So do watch, if you're interested in more about that, week 2, you can catch up in the school community or on YouTube. Do watch that back as well. Let's go back to the tools, because this is where people get confused and often make a lot of expensive mistakes. There's quite a few different tools in the marketplace, but they're not all equal. I guess you've got category 1 of tools, cloud-based tools like Leadith. So these run in the background. The key thing here is that these tools log in using your LinkedIn credentials on a server set up somewhere else, and they're performing the actions on your behalf. The risk is medium risk, but it can be high risk if the individual does not have an IP address allocated to your country for every session where you're logging in. Because what happens is some software tools, they won't allocate an IP, so it will seem that you're being logged in from some computer remote. It could be the States, it could be Nigeria, wherever. And if LinkedIn see more and more IP addresses popping up dotted all around, then that's going to flag your account. So it's really important to make sure, if you're experimenting, if you're looking at different tools, make sure that the tool is allocating an IP address, and that IP address is then allocated to your account. So whenever you're logging into LinkedIn to perform automation tasks, it's always it's much safer if you do it that way. Another way of doing it is like when you have a VA and they're operating your LinkedIn account remotely using your credentials. When they're logging in different country as you, then potentially that can flag your account up as automation, because they think, hey, what's going on here? To accessing on different IPs and things. It's going to confuse LinkedIn. They're not going to like that. You've also got browser-based extensions. Linked Helper was one of the earliest browser-based extensions that I use. Walaxy, I think, is one, and there's a few others out there. I'm trying to think. Used to be Meet Alfred was another one years ago. So these basically sit on your local machine. They're a plugin extension to something like Chrome. And they basically operate LinkedIn as if it's you. They're a little bit more limited in terms of what they can do and some of the automations they can perform. But the risk is much lower using those. So much safer from LinkedIn's perspective, as it looks like you're using them, obviously, on your IP address that you would be actually using from your device and your address. And then you've got, I guess, a third option. And the third option is not using any automation at all, just using organized templates and workflows that you can execute manually. So obviously the risk to LinkedIn is zero because you're doing it all yourself. LinkedIn can't possibly object to that. But my recommendation is, maybe if you're nervous about automation or you're just starting out, then always start there. Build up some nice templates, get comfortable with the process, and then start to layer in the automation as you increase. So here's a bit of a checklist, a bit of a safety protocol. So follow this and you'll stay in LinkedIn's good books. Number 1, vary the message templates. If you've got, I like to say about 5 or 10 different variations of your core message is great, and rotate them, spin them around. Number 2, spread your activity across the day. So don't just send 50 connection requests at 9 a.m. every single morning. Spread them out like a human would, morning, afternoon, and evening. Maybe try different days. Number 3, engage with content regularly. Comment on posts, share insights, be a genuine member of the LinkedIn community, not just someone who sends those connection requests and then doesn't do a lot on the back of them. 4, respond promptly to the replies. So when someone messages you back, reply within 24 hours, ideally. LinkedIn will notice how responsive you are. Number 5, monitor your acceptance rate. And if that acceptance rate is dropping below 30%, something's wrong. The targeting, the messaging, pause and just diagnose that. It could be your LinkedIn profile that's not been fully optimized and the people that you're targeting, and there's just a bit of misalignment there. Step 6, use LinkedIn's built-in features, things like Sales Navigator, LinkedIn Premium. They'll help you to kind of unlock LinkedIn's own tools to give you a bit more leeway as well. And then number 7 is never buy connection requests. Or followers ever. You'll get an instant ban for that. So just be wary of purchasing fake LinkedIn accounts or that sort of stuff. Jason, do you want to pipe up with your question to do with?
Can do. Only to ask you, was said recently, if you keep doing this, you need to check your pending connection requests.
Definitely.
The past is like if they're kind of more than a month old and they haven't been answered, you perhaps should delete them.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of the LinkedIn algorithm, I've not noticed it hugely affect it. Ours is set to about 500, I think, on our V2 platform. So when it got to 501, it would start to drop off the oldest pending invite. But 500 is quite a lot. That's like 3 months worth of constantly reaching out. And I think what V3 does now is we withdraw after 7 days. So if they've failed to accept that connection request after 7 days, you could set it to 2 weeks because they could genuinely be on holiday and be offline. But most people, 7 days, if they've not accepted it, then withdraw it. And the benefits of withdrawing a connection request is that you can then send another connection request to them after that 2 week or 3 week period of silence. So you can't reach out to them again. You have to wait for 3 weeks, and then you can then resend them a connection request again. So yeah, that would be kind of our advice in terms of withdrawing those connection requests. Let's move on. So if you do get hit with a LinkedIn restriction, don't panic. That's the key thing. This is what to do. Stop all the automation immediately, not temporarily. Just stop any automation. If you're doing any automation, just stop your campaigns. Give it a rest. Review the LinkedIn's terms of service. Genuinely read them. They might give you a bit more insight into kind of what's going on, what's happened. You've got to really understand what it is you've done wrong. So we need to get clear there. Spend maybe 2 weeks manually posting, being active, commenting on other people's posts, engaging generally. Just need to get back into the kind of the more human side of things, and then that allows you to kind of rebuild that authenticity score that we spoke about earlier. So once LinkedIn sees you behaving like a real human, again, those restrictions will temporarily lift. And then you can start to restart that automation really slowly. So we actually have a warm-up mode, which basically kicks off with maybe 5 connection messages. And then the next day it will do 6, and then it will do 7, and it kind of builds up again till it gets to about the 20 or the 25 connection messages a day. So it's very much a kind of mindset shift, which you've got to make in terms of LinkedIn outreach. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a very long-term strategy. You don't need to connect with 500 people straight away. It's all about connecting with the right 50 people this month, and then the right 50 people next month, and the month after that. So it's sustainable, consistent, high quality outreach. That's always going to beat any aggressive, spammy, high volume outreach every time. And it's not just results; it's account safety and having your reputation and sanity safe. So automation is a tool that's going to help you to maintain the consistency, but it's not a tool to just blast out with generic messages. You've got to use it smartly, intelligently, and then it will work for you really brilliantly. If you abuse it, then it will hurt you. Just some tips there. Section 4, which we're going to kind of roll in with now, kind of as we land this masterclass. Just going to give you a practical weekly workflow that kind of helps you to balance the automation with authenticity. So Monday morning, this is where you can review your LinkedIn saved searches. Maybe identify your top 50 targets for the week. Export the list. Get that into your automation on a Monday. By Monday afternoon, you can start researching the targets. You can find out the strong personalization variables if you're doing it manually, or you can build a campaign that will go and find that for you on their profile. And then Tuesday to Thursday, this is where you're kind of going for it. You're sending those 15 to 20 connection requests every single day using the automation. Each one has been personalized now with the variables that you've researched. And then, throughout the week, when people accept, your automation can send that first follow-up message within the 24-hour period, ideally. Review people who've replied and start to move those conversations into more of a manual approach. And eventually this will take shape, and you'll have a weekly hot list of people that are just replying to you and you can keep the conversation moving with those individuals. But yeah, try to reply personally to every single one. If you're doing a campaign inviting people to events and things like that, you can set up automations to, engage with people and send them a link. All that stuff is possible with bots, and it's a great time saver. But think about that engagement piece. So by Friday, put some valuable content out there on LinkedIn. Have a look at the engagement, who's kind of engaging with that content, and then build that authenticity score. Simple, repeatable, and very scalable. And then when you get to a place where you're thinking, yeah, this is working really well, I've nailed it, that's when you can think, right, I now need to do it for another LinkedIn profile. So it could be someone else in your business. And if you can get multiple people, a team of salespeople, and you're operating this at a huge scale, then so something crucial, automation works really better when it's supported by good content. So a content strategy works really well with a connection outreach strategy. So when you're posting that valuable content regularly, some of your audience will just naturally engage with it. And when they do, your connection request will go from cold to warm instantly. They're much more likely to engage with you. And this is the cycle. You create the content, target audience will then engage with you, and then you connect referencing their engagement. And what we see is really good acceptance rates. So this is how we've been doing it. And I can show you some of the stats. We've been getting kind of 60, 70% acceptance rate on a LinkedIn post engagement campaign. Just seems to be where the real conversations are happening. And if your profile is in real alignment with that specific audience, it works really well. So automation can really help you to identify who's engaged and what content is resonating the most. Obviously, you've got LinkedIn Analytics can help you. And once you get into a cycle with that, that will help you find who's engaged with the right sorts of posts. And that goes back to the content cycle. So your process is a flywheel effect. It just keeps going round. Your content gets better, more engagement, more connections. Your content is refined again. So it's important to track the right metrics. We get our customers to do this on a monthly basis. Acceptance rate is one of the key metrics that you want to be measuring. Aim for 40% minimum. If it's lower, we've got to fix the targeting, we've got to fix the messaging, fix the profile. Something's broken if we're not getting that decent 40+% connection request rate. The response rate ideally should be above 20%. So if it's lower, then potentially your first message is not providing enough value to them. So think about that first message back to them, how you can add a bit more value in there to keep the conversations flowing. What's the conversation rate like? So what percentage of responses turn into back and forth conversations rather than just a one conversation back? Ideally, 50% should go to a back and forth conversation with an individual where you're building up much more rapport with people. Meeting rate. So what's the percentage of conversions that lead to meetings? Often the reason we're doing this is to grow the business, and often it's a meeting. So you're driving LinkedIn to generate meetings. So aim for about 30% or above in terms of conversations leading to meetings. That's what I call a meeting rate. So don't just track the connections that you're sending, and don't celebrate the numbers of messages you're sending. It's a good metric and it's a good indicator, but we need to not be focused on just activity metrics, but actual outcomes. What are the outcomes from the campaigns in terms of numbers of people that we're having conversations with? So here's the honest truth. Automation is not a shortcut to avoiding the work. It's very much a tool to help you do the work more efficiently. You still need to research your prospects. You still need to personalize those messages, and you've got to have those genuine conversations. You still need to provide a lot of value up front. And automation just kind of helps you to do that without spending 12 hours a day of manually doing a lot of the clicking of buttons. You've got to use it for what it's good at. Keep the human element where it matters, and you'll scale real sustainably without sacrificing that authenticity. So before we wrap up and go into maybe some questions, we'd love to hear from you if you're currently automating or not, what tools you're using, What's your biggest concern about using them? Do drop a message in the comments on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. But yeah, we can go to more of a proper conversation. So thank you very much for tuning in on the live stream and taking this seriously. Thank you for giving up your time. Implement those protocols. If you need a copy of the notes, happy to send those out. Just pop a comment in the chat and I can ping those across to you, a PDF of those if it's helpful to you. Next Tuesday, we're going back to our normal afternoon slot. That'll be a 1 p.m. That's GMT London time. So probably missed a lot of the Americans probably missed out on this one because I made it a bit earlier. It's half term here in the UK, so it's a juggling act, balancing mornings of work and a family in the afternoon. Next week on Tuesday, we're going into behind the scenes of real campaigns that have generated over 100K in deals. No theory, no guesswork, just the exact targeting, the sequences, and the decision making that made them work. So excited to be taking on that session now. Back into the room. Thank you, Elaine, for joining us. I can see Sasha's still with us. Jason's with us. Any further comments, questions from you guys, really? Yeah, good. Thank you, Jason.
So I just had a quick touch on the leader's side. So your primary offering is done for you service.
Yeah, that's kind of our flagship product where we're going in and doing it. We do have a DIY option, which is diy.leadith.io, which is where it's self-paced, a little bit less support. And yeah, thank you, Sasha, for your comments there. I'm glad you've joined and learned a little bit today. Hope you found value there. Yeah, so yeah, the pricing's in US dollars for that one because it's pitched more as a SaaS product, as a login. You get yourself going with it, but we can support you if you've got any questions or concerns.
For the first time in a long time, I've kind of got an offering now that actually would be right. Hence the reason me jumping on this call now.
Okay.
And potentially clients that could use it too. So
yeah.
Have a look at that and see what you're up to. Have a chat with my business partner.
Yeah. If you want a demo, feel free to schedule a full-on demo call, and we can take it from there. But yeah, the done for you work is it's a bit more lucrative. Customers tend to stick around for a lot longer, is what I'm finding. They're seeing better value, whereas often you give a tool to someone, they won't get the tool, they won't suss it out, they're kind of have half a heart in it unless they're a technology person and they can understand the tech and understand how to configure it, then it can work quite effectively for them. But I think where that's kind of the added value comes in, years of knowledge, years of background, kind of helping them to scale their campaigns and yeah, improve them.
I would assume, is that right? You help kind of on the angle for that, whatever the hook might be, or
that's right.
You help them develop a interest value offering.
Yeah. So a lot of clients come in and their businesses are in tatters. They haven't got a clear proposition. They're they don't have that value prop. They've not even got a client yet, and it's a struggle. I have to turn those people away because they're just too early. Yeah, so really someone who's got a really core offer. I would say that average lifetime deal of a client is about £2,000 or above. Then it makes sense in terms of the numbers, the metrics. So yeah, it works for some people, it doesn't for others, which is why we just offer a free chat to kind of dive into it, have a look at the offer, have a look at what they're doing, and help them to craft more than just a marketing campaign, but look at the overall business. Tapping into my role as a certified EC coach, look at the whole business rather than just one little marketing slither. Often there's other pieces. Entrepreneur Circle certified coach. So yeah, that training just made me look at the whole business rather than just the one specific element that people often think they need to fix. But there's often foundational problems with the business which need addressing first. Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay.